See you in church. Hi, I'm Manuel. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Put the little hand up. I do it right away because I always forget it. And leave a little message. It could be something you rather talk about or whatever. But remember, today is story time. Story time. This is the time where I tell you a story that the old people used to tell. But I'm not going to tell one of those stories today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell a story that's true to my family. And it's a different story. I don't know. Friends have said, don't tell the people that. They're going to think, I don't care what people think, to be honest. Because it's true to my family. And if they don't believe it, there's nothing I can do about that. It's still going to be true to my family. I don't know. So, what do you think? True is true. Anyway, my family, half of it lives in California, and the other half lives in Texas. So, when my mother was born, my grandmother told her daughter, my grandmother, to leave her, my mom. So she stayed in Texas. And family, my mom's family separated, and she went to California. That was with my aunt. Um, Supposedly, this is the storyline I heard. My grandfather and his brother would go gambling. And from what I understood, they weren't very good at it. So they went gambling and they won. They won a lot. So he went and took the money and gave it to my grandmother. They were all together. She held the money. Then he saw trouble. He took off, him and his brother. And from what I understood, the horses came back. And you have to remember, from their time, it's a lot different. Nowadays, you have a few people they call mediums and whatever. But they talk to them, and they found them dead by the lake, both of them. They had been killed. But they didn't get the money. So it wasn't worth their life the way the family felt. But what can we say? Bad losers. So they had gone to a witch and they found out this information. So that's the storyline base. And my grandmother took her granddaughter, the elder, to California, and raised her there, and my mom stayed with the grandmother and grandfather, and I think great grandfather and aunt. And I don't know, to be honest, I never heard about her uncle. She had uncles, but I never heard about an uncle that was married to the aunt. That was sort of weird, to be honest. Anyway, so you know, she goes and she asks this witch and everything. Then she goes to a get together. It's a larger group, from what I understand, my mom saying. And they handed everybody a candle. They were supposed to take home and light the candle and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know what one of my aunts did, but she lit a candle and she went mad, from what I understood. And I think it wasn't my well, no, it was an aunt. So no one else had lit their candle. So they all grabbed the candles, threw them in the garbage. Common sense. Some people still would have lit the candle. Anyway, they threw them away. That's what I would have done. So after they did that, they got together, and there was a rumor. A neighbor comes over and says, well, it's the bad witch who helped you find Katarina's grandfather and uncle, where they're at. So he goes over to go catch the witch, and she says, and she thinks she's trying to voodoo you guys. So he goes over, he finds the witch, and the witch is dancing around, and he recognizes with one of his underwear, and she's trying to bewitch him. So he runs and sneaks up behind her, punches her in the face, getting the blood splattered on him. And it's over with him. No more spell, no nothing. But she still tries stuff, from what I understand. So my aunt, who's been bewitched, they call, I think they call him a varatore. He's a male witch. And he says, get me a branch from this certain tree. So they go get the branch. My uncle does. And they take the bewitched aunt into the room. And he says, okay. From what she understood, that if she is not faking it, whoever has bewitched her will, you know, get the lashes. So you hear, pew, 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 pew. You hear the whipping sounds of the branches hitting. It's either their aunt or the grandmother. I'm not too sure at that point. And over and over and over, she goes, you have to remember she's little, and she's hearing that, and she starts crying because it's who they're beating. It's a family member, and she just starts crying. And then she comes out. Not one mark anywhere. And her aunt, who later raises her, tells her he beat her senseless, but now she's acting like she never has been hit, not even once. I don't get it. And everybody just looks. They're just, what happened? So they continue that for weeks. Then a message comes that he's not coming anymore. They've dug up the Santos that had bewitched her and everything. She was no longer bewitched. And she found out that the male witch who was helping her and broke the spell had been killed and cut into pieces and distributed all over his house. The police had come and they had gone for him, and he wasn't there anymore. They said he'd been murdered. So my whole family are together because that's what they do. They get together and they do prayers while that's happening. And my uncle goes over and grabs my grandfather. And I'm not too sure if it's the great grandfather or the grandfather. But he goes over and he says, Grandpapa, I saw the witch. He says, who? He says, that witch. Remember the one that you hit and you punched in the face? He goes, yes. He says, well, she's the one. I saw her. And she's beaten all over with whip marks, like somebody has been beating her for weeks. She's just all marked up. So he says, but I haven't heard anything about her or anything, them calling the police for her because she's been attacked. He says, well, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I just saw over there by the hill. So the grandfather takes off to see and sees her, all covered in bruises. The skin is even broken in spots like she had been whipped. And he's like, they just are so surprised. And they said, well, they said that the whips that your grandmother was taking would go on to the person that cursed her. And if she doesn't break the curse, she will hold on to the whips. They won't go to grandma. They'll just stay on her until she breaks the spell, and then that'll be over with. So they break the spell, and it's over. They have no more connection to that person. But I never believed in witchcraft and everything, but because we have that story in our family line, I remember, I believe. I've seen a cover trying to do some spells in an area. Me and some friends, we were together and we saw that. But to be honest, I never really played with it. I had a friend that had a lot of books, and I sat down one time and I was reading it, and the book, to me, what it was, from what I could understand, the one I was reading was a protection book, and it gave you ways to protect yourself from evil. And what I did was I learned about it. It was interesting to me. It was fun. But in the long run, it was different. I found out what Santos and everything. I've always believed in God. I didn't believe in witchcraft and all that stuff. But later on, when we heard these stories and everything, and you start to hear it, a lot of different people talking, and they're not from one location, you have to start believing about that there are other forms of evil or goodness. They can be that way. It's really up to the person. But I was always a little scared because of that, and I was always a little cautious. But I've never actually met that kind of evil person that would want to harm other people. Thank goodness. But what do you think? Do you believe in that? If you do, leave me a message at the bottom. Let me know how you feel, or if you've had any connection to something like that, or what. God forbid, hopefully that you don't. But what do you think? Anyway, subscribe to my channel, put the little hand up, leave a little message, and give me a topic. Remember, this is my story time. Story time. So that's why I've told this story. I meant to tell it before, but then I've had other people say, no, don't tell that story. But it's true to my family, so I thought I would just tell it. Maybe you have had something like that in your life. But there's been lots of stories I've heard, and they're true from who told me. But, AA, see you in church.